Hey.
Hi.
Now you know about medieval history. We just got out of the re-release of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Probably my 200th time seeing it. Actually, first time in the theater, though.
Yeah, I don't know if it came out in '75, so I know I didn't see it in the theater. I was still in high school, and I'm certain that wasn't anything that your grandma would let me go see. But I know that I watched it on VHS. It's so funny.
How long has it been since you've seen it?
Probably 30 years.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it would have been like 84, 80,
Yeah.
80 around 19.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know when the last time I saw it was, but it's one of those movies that, well, my dad showed it to me for the first time, and we rented it. I was junior high. I would have been in junior high. And we rented it. It was often on Comedy Central, because Comedy Central used to play the hell out of it. And I think the first time I saw a clip of it was Comedy Central, and we were flipping channels, and it was the first scene in the movie, and the scene where King Arthur and they're doing the coconuts with the horses and everything. And we were just flipping channels. I didn't really know what it was. All that. Fuck is that? It's like a medieval movie, but they couldn't afford horses? What movie is this? And it's like, oh, it's Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And then we rented it not that long after that, and watched it then. And for a long time, that was usually what I did on my birthday. Was me and my friends would get together and we would stay up until like dawn. We would stay up until like fucking dawn, and we'd watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail along with plenty of other stuff too. But usually always Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Nowadays we just drink on my birthday. Still staying up until dawn. That part's the same.
It was good to see it again. Like anything that you haven't seen in many years, it brings back so much. The coconuts, clanging together, sounding like a horse, and the King Arthur with his fight with the knight, and he chops his arm off. It's just a little flesh wound, and I mean, there's all those things that come back. But the Brits have just got their own humor. They're very literal, and even in the worst of circumstances, they're still always very proper,
Yeah, Graham Chapman, still trying to keep a semblance of dignity at the end when he's got shit covered on him from the French pouring buckets of feces on his head.
Just ignore them. Don't pay attention to them.
Yeah, I mean, it's everyone knows the lines, everyone knows the characters. By this point, I mean, if you're a fan of the movie, you've seen it more than a dozen times. If you're a fan of, it's very rare you'll find a fan of this movie who's only seen it like twice, who can't quote the lines, who can't quote the characters, who can't watch the movie in their sleep. So yeah, it was my first time seeing it in the theater, and even sitting there in the theater watching it, a movie I've seen hundreds of times, and it probably has been years since I've seen it. It might have been all the way from beginning to end, all the way through, for me, like maybe like 10 years.
Well, and when I said 30 years, that's probably beginning to end. But of course you can't channel surf too often and it not be out there someplace, so I'm sure I've seen bits and pieces of it.
Well, there's those movies, though, that you've seen so many times that you won't even realize that maybe you've gone about 10 years without having seen it, because if someone mentions it to you, you can play the entire movie in your head. Sitting there watching the movie again tonight, I've seen it many, 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 many times, and it's still funny. It's still hilarious. I mean, there's always going to be like, that first time you see it, when everything is a surprise, cows getting launched up, the lines, the horrific violence in the movie, the rabbit lunging at them, all that stuff. Like, I remember being in just tears in the rabbit sequence, and the cow getting launched and the Trojan rabbit falling on him. I remember just being in tears seeing that for the first time, and even a half a dozen times after that, those parts would just still make me cry. And even sitting in the theater now, that shit still makes me laugh. It still makes me laugh. And just one of my favorite things about this movie is the ending. Is the ending to the movie.
It just ends. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I mean. See when especially when you're showing the movie to somebody for the first time. I can't imagine in 75 when the movie first came out, being in the because my dad says he saw it in the theater, and that had to have been just what the fuck when the movie ends. Here's this big they're gonna storm this castle of the Frenchmen, and they're gonna storm this castle, they're gonna get the Grail, everything's gonna be fine, and then cops show up, arrest them, there's really no fight at the end of it, and camera cuts, and then it's 2 minutes of the organ music playing and with no credits, with absolutely zero ending credits. It's that along with American Werewolf in London are the two greatest troll endings of all time.
And the way that it jumps forward to present time for then is not unlike, I don't know if this is a good comparison, the end of Blazing Saddles.
Oh, yeah,
but all of a sudden you go from the 1800s to a soundstage and Universal. It's kind of the same thing. All of a sudden you're, Harvey Korman's walking into a movie theater and
Headley.
asking for Raisinets. But
yeah.
The British humor, I have to tell you, it took a while to grow on me, and I think that might have just been my own maturing of an understanding or an appreciation for other kinds of humor, because I specifically remember as a teenager friends of mine who watched Monty Python's Flying Circus, and I'm like, that's just dumb. It's not funny.
It is.
It is, and it really didn't take too long of watching it and understanding that the Brits have got such a different sense of humor than us, which is evidence in shows like the Britcoms that are on PBS of a Saturday night.
Well, yeah, because my dad's the one who introduced Monty Python to me when I was in grade school, junior high, something like that. And I think that's a typical story with anyone. Usually people my age, younger, maybe a little older. It's usually the parents, more often than not the dads.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Who show them Monty Python. And yeah, when I was in junior high and then high school, Channel 12 here in town, PBS, they would show it about every Saturday night. They'd show an hour block of it about every Saturday. Me and my dad would tape them, and then the next day we would watch them. I have the whole series at home. It's one of my DVDs that didn't get stolen. I still have that. I still have my box set of all of the episodes. So I've seen them all before. Like I said, it's probably been 10 years since I watched this, thinking about it, probably, no, I wouldn't say it's been less than that since I've sat down to watch episodes of the show. I'll break those out every now and then. Did you have a favorite sketch as far as the show goes?
Tonight?
No,
I'd have
series.
to think about that. I would. I'd have to go back and think about that. Nothing is coming to mind right now. I was going to ask you with regard to British humor, besides Monty Python, things that they branched out into, Michael Palin and John Cleese, who's, God, those guys are just geniuses.
Fawlty Towers.
Yeah, did you watch that one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was even, oh my God, there was an American remake of Fawlty Towers in the mid-90s, 95, 96. And my dad and I were part of a test audience for it. Not that we were there live when it was going on, but we were on vacation in Florida, and we were at MGM Studios. We walk in, and a dude comes up and says, "Hey, we're showing a pilot for a new half-hour sitcom that's going to be on CBS, NBC, one of the two." And they're like, "Would you like to be part of this, kind of test audience for it?" we're like, yeah, let's see what shit's gonna get thrown at us now. So we go in there, and it's this trailer. It was this trailer. It was me, my dad, Vicky, and like maybe about 5 or 6 other people, different age groups and everything. And there's like a TV, just like a little TV, like in the middle of the room. And the guy's like, okay, we're gonna show you this. It's an American remake of Faulty Towers. Right away, American remake of a
British comedy.
that's worked with The Office, that hasn't worked in a lot of instances. Like, it hasn't worked more often than it's worked. So anyway, we're like, okay, and it was a show called Pain. Payne, starring John Larroquette. And I love John Larroquette. And I'm like, okay, John Larroquette starring as like this kind of crotchety owner of a hotel. Okay. It wasn't very good. His name, the show is called Pain, Payne. And his name in the show was Royal Pain.
Oh, no.
And his wife was Constance Payne.
Oh,
fantastic that they both got together. Their names synced up stupidly. And there was this, I barely remember anything about this. All I remember is at the end of it, the notes that we were supposed to take during it, and me being like, I love John Larroquette. Maybe this has promise. I don't know. And my dad's like, no, sucks. And he was like, sucks, this is really bad. I remember that there was like a Latino bellhop who was like supposed to be like.
I don't remember it.
He was supposed to be like the dumb guy, and there was this stupid scene where like John Larroquette is explaining him the difference between lesbianese people and lesbian people.
Oh, wow.
So you can see why this didn't.
Well, I don't remember it.
It aired
at all.
I have no idea if the pilot was any different than the one that we saw. I'm guessing not. This thing was canceled after like 13 episodes, but it did air. It did air.
I gotta YouTube it.
Have fun.
You can't, I think that was kind of when you were talking about you can't redo American version of this. Okay, like I think that's what the Monkees might have tried to ban is from the American version of like the Beatles. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, you can't.
I love the Monkees.
I love the Monkees. Trust me, love the Monkees. But I think sometimes that happens, and more often than not, it doesn't work.
Well, I mean, it can work if like your own voice is attached to it. You know, like. Okay, look at The Office. The Office is a fine show, but The Office isn't, aside from, you look at the pilot for The Office, yeah, there's some stuff in that pilot that they did in the BBC series, but not everything. They still added their own thing to it, as opposed to when they tried doing coupling in the United States, and the script for the American coupling was verbatim the script from Stephen Moffat's coupling. It didn't work. It didn't work at all. I mean, I will say that when that show, I watched all episodes of the American version of Coupling. Not that there were a lot of them, but my own curiosity. But the episodes of that show, the American version of it, that actually were their own script and their own thing, were, you can debate if it was any good or not, but it was at least better. It at least had its own voice. But yeah, like I said, that would be something. An American remake of Monty Python's Flying Circus. Weird.
Don't put that out there. Somebody will try.
I had a favorite sketch, The Bishop, where Terry Jones was the bishop. He was an archbishop, and it was like a 70s like kind of exploitation film where he and his other like priests were going around saving other priests from like mafia hits and assassinations. Like John Cleese is like, or no, I think it was Graham Chapman was giving like, was at a funeral like dear departed and like just doing that over this grave in the ground. All of a sudden you see this cannon rise out of the grave and shoot him. Like the bishop would never make it there in time. They would always end up getting murdered. That was, you just have to see. It's funnier to see it than if you describe it, you just sound like a madman. But that one's my favorite.
One thing talking about the movie, that I'd forgotten about was how many of the guys played different roles.
Oh.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, like John Cleese plays a couple different parts. They all do.
My favorite part about that is how when Eric, like for instance, like when Eric Idle is, dude with the holy hand grenade at the end,
Oh,
and you
my
can
God.
also see Sir Robin in the background, but I mean, it's obviously not Eric Idle. He just has the shield covering up his face, so like it's someone standing in for Eric Idle while Eric Idle's playing the guy with the holy hand grenade. And same with like when John Cleese is Tim, at the Enchanter at the end, and for that like whole stretch, Sir Lancelot is not in the scene. Like there's not even anyone standing in for him. There's just Sir
He's
Lancelot.
just not there.
It's just not there when this is going on until the second Tim the Enchanter leaves, and there's Sir Lancelot. Oh. I like that stuff. I like seeing them all pop up playing like a million different characters.
Different parts. I think I like John Cleese as the French guy in the castle. Oh God! But it was fun seeing scenes that I'd forgotten about. The bridge keeper, that with the 3 questions and what's your favorite color? The carrying the guy, the almost dead guy over his shoulder at the very beginning.
I feel happy.
I go for a walk. You're not fooling anyone. It'll make more sense for those of you to trying to explain it is difficult.
It's like that with any comedy.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those you kind of had to been there.
Yeah, we've noticed that like over the years, us reviewing comedies, reviewing good comedies on here. At least for me anyway, is typically the hardest ones to talk about, unless it's something like this, something I've seen many, many times, and I can at least talk about, like, where I was when I first saw it, how many times I saw it, stuff like that. But, when you're reviewing a comedy that's, like, really, really good, there's only so many times you can say, this movie's hilarious, and then you bust into, like, and then this scene happened, and then this scene happened, and then that scene happened. Did you have, and the version that we got tonight was actually I guess what's considered the director's cut. I remember when that first aired on Comedy Central, they were advertising it quite a bit, the director's cut. And so, me and my dad watched it. It's called the director's cut. Maybe there's a bunch of new stuff in there. And and it's a great scene. It's a scene that I always thought should have been left in any version of the movie. It's the one where when Sir Galahad, when Michael Palin is at the Castle Anthrax with the nymphos, and Carol Cleveland is when she's saying like, do you think this should have been cut out? We were wondering about the boys were wondering about this, and then it cuts to all those people saying, get on with it. The version that is typically on DVD or VHS doesn't have that part in it, and I always like that part. I always like that part a lot. But we got, I guess it's extended by 30 seconds.
That whole scene is hilarious. Maybe because it's been so long, but I don't remember the very beginning of all that, and the drawings, all the animation, and just the chatting. The very beginning where
that short.
Yeah.
Oh, that was just like a bonus feature for the theatrical.
Okay.
They had a thing at the beginning of the movie where it was about 10 minutes, and it was Terry Gilliam providing commentary for deleted animated sequences. It was interesting seeing the deleted parts of the commentary. Was a little rambly, but like it was funny seeing the deleted animations that they didn't use, and it was all part of like animation that would have been there before, like it says the tale of Sir Robin and stuff like that. That was a nice surprise because I didn't know they were going to do that. It was. I wonder if you could ever talk to any of those guys, Eric Idle, Michael Palin, John Cleese, all of them. What's their inspiration for that? For how they come up with this stuff? I mean, who thinks the stuff up? There's a lot of great documentaries out there, like Life of Python is a good one. Even the DVDs have good bonus stuff on there, and if I remember right, 'cause it's been a long time since I've seen them. If I remember right, they were, they had their own like kind of writing groups where there would be like Terry Jones and Michael Palin who would typically come up with a lot of the really, really far out stuff, like the Spanish Inquisition and things like that, whereas like Graham Chapman and John Cleese would come up with a lot of the dry stuff. And John Cleese and Graham Chapman were, if I had to pick like favorites, I mean, I love really dry humor like that, so I love Graham Chapman and John Cleese. Anytime John Cleese yells, it's instantly hilarious.
John Cleese is so funny. He can do, I mean, to this day, he can do anything. I mean, he did, it's been years, obviously, but he did A Fish Called Wanda, which Michael Palin was also in that with him. And then you can even move him way forward to, he had a reoccurring role on Will and Grace.
Did he?
Yeah, for a while. He married Karen, Megan Mullally's character, and he's just John Cleese. He's just a genius.
Fish Called Wanda was because I saw that when that first came out.
Oh yeah, I remember. Remember when we saw it?
Yeah, so that would have been the first thing that I probably saw John Cleese in. Other than like, I seem to recall him popping up as a guest spot on like Sesame Street.
Then didn't he go to the character? He's Q, isn't he, in the Bond movies?
He was
now?
R.
He was R. Okay, yeah.
In just two. In World Is Not Enough and Die Another Day, he was R. And then when they rebooted it, and they didn't bring R back.
Right, because Q.
Original Q, died.
Yeah, died. Anyway, Michael Palin, I think probably going back was, he and John Cleese were, my favorites, but they're just, I mean, they're the kind of guys you'd like to just have a chat with, sit down and just, I think Richard for American comedy, so to speak, Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, if you could take just George Carlin, a handful of guys and just sit them down and say, what's your inspiration for this kind of humor and that kind of thing, but for those who haven't seen it, watch it.
Oh yeah, if you haven't seen this, then what the hell are you watching this video for?
Exactly. Yeah, and where have you been? And
yeah, I know comedy's subjective. People like their own things. They have their own reason for liking the things they do. And comedy, it's a hard thing to debate because what are you gonna say? If someone likes it, then they like it. If someone doesn't like it, then they don't like it. In terms of comedy, but oh, I mean, I'm gonna sound like a dickhead, but like if you like stuff like this or like Monty Python, like I'm sorry, that must suck.
Yeah, because it's just you can't force something to be funny to somebody when it's not. Yeah. You can't, but at the same time, my God, I dare anybody to sit through a film like that and not laugh.
At least once.
At least
once. And anytime on the show that, John Cleese is, like, screaming or being, like, belligerent, or Graham Chapman is, like, a character with, like, a position of authority, like when he's, like, the drill instructor guy, and he stops the show for being too silly, and, like, yells at the show for it, I love that shit. I just, I fucking love that stuff.
I felt kind of bad because when you haven't seen something like this for a while, and then a scene comes along that you forgot about it, I just busted up laughing, and I was afraid I was being a little bit too loud in the theater, but you can't help it.
Yeah, there was a crowd in there.
Oh yeah, and it was good to see too because there were all ages in the theater. Did you notice that?
Yeah, there were
like kids next to us.
At the same age that I probably was when I first saw it.
Yeah, you don't think you saw it younger? How old were you when you first saw it?
I would say probably like 13, 14.
Yeah, those kids next to us might have been about that age, and then of course there were people, and they're definitely older than me.
Yeah, there were parents in there.
Yeah, and some grandparents. It was it was a really good mixed up all age group crowd. But yeah, I think some scenes I'll probably wake up in the middle of the night tonight and just crack up looking back. But.
One thing I like about this movie too is that it's a really, I mean, it's a King Arthur spoof. It's a Camelot spoof. It's a spoof of medieval flicks and stuff like that. And it really is a visually speaking, it's an impressive looking film. Like, it is a very dark and grungy looking film. There's constant fog. Everyone's very dirty. Like, people look more, in terms of like just medieval flicks in general, there are people in this movie that look grimier and dirtier than some do in like straightforward medieval films that I've seen.
Oh yeah, it's grungy. I mean, it is. It's grungy. It's dark. People are filthy. The costumes were good. Even the scenery, because I think I saw at the beginning that it said it was all shot in Scotland. Did you see that?
I think so.
Yeah.
I never know what to believe in those opening credits.
Well, that's
though.
true. It might have been that might have been a bunch of nonsense. But if you look at it, yeah, and even with Tim what's Tim?
Tim the Enchanter.
Yeah, even his little bombs, his little,
Yeah. The model work's good in the movie. It's great looking in the movie. Even some of the the castles that they got for the film, and also the soundtrack itself. A lot of the musical score in it could fit along with like a straightforward, serious medieval film.
Oh yeah. So if you look at it in the context of it's 39 years old. You said 75, right? Yeah, 39 years old. Wow. I mean, it's another one like you and I've seen before that is from way back in the day, but it's just timeless.
Yeah. Oh,
you know, for sure.
Did you like any of their other movies?
Oh, which one would come to mind?
Life of Brian.
Oh, yeah.
Life of Brian's great. Meaning of Life. Meaning of Life's got, even if you don't like Meaning of Life, like everyone still like either remembers or laughs at the scene where I think it was Terry Jones is the fat guy who comes in and he overstuffs himself and like, offers him a mint, eats the mint, vomits, and I think blows up or something. Like, I haven't watched that one in a while. That's a good one.
Yeah, that has been a while. This one I think is the one that sticks the most in my head because I have seen it more, even though it's been some time since I saw it, front to back. But and just the classic lines. I think this has got some of the most classic lines of all the Monty Python movies.
Yeah.
Most repeatable lines.
It's typically the one that you find that's the most quotable. It's typically the one that you find that maybe not isn't. It of the movies, it's typically the favorite. Like, more people would consider this to be the favorite than some of the others. This are usually, if not this, then usually Life of Brian. But in terms of what you see people quote, in terms of what T-shirts you see people. What hell? I grew up wearing T-shirts. They still fit me. I still have the T-shirts from this from 20 years ago. Yeah, this is genuinely the one that's the most talked about. Even though the others too, like you had a couple of us in the group of their favorites, like Life of Brian. I would say this one. This is definitely the one that I've seen the most. But the others I've seen plenty of times too. But any of them I would recommend.
Oh heck yes! I mean, it's just all that kind of dry, sarcastic, very literal, and humor. Always, no matter what the context or what the situation, the Brits being very, very proper. No matter what. Even before they're getting out the hand grenade, and they have their book and they read, and they've got the priest swinging the, what the heck ever it is, the smoke, the incense, that the priest, everything is proper with those people. And I think it's genius.
Oh, yeah, I love that shit. I love it. Well, I think next week is...
Next week, I'm very excited.
Yeah, next week is 9.5 weeks.
No, it's not.
Although, I would totally go see that.
I don't know.
If they brought back 9.5 weeks. I would go see 9.5 weeks. Why the fuck not?
I don't know. Anyway, I don't know if I'd see that one with you, but next week
we saw Eyes Wide Shut in the theater.
Eyes Wide Shut, that was good. I liked Eyes Wide Shut.
You just don't like that, or you didn't like the '80s Mickey Rourke movies, though, did you?
No, I didn't.
Oh man, Diner, 9.5 weeks.
No.
Wild Orchid.
Oh my God.
Although that one kind of sucked. It was Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man.
Well, that was a good movie.
That movie's awesome.
I like today Mickey Rourke better than that Mickey Rourke back then. Like Expendables Mickey Rourke and Wrestler Mickey Rourke. Oh my God.
More so than Johnny
80s.
Handsome
Yeah.
Mickey Rourke.
Anyway, so next week I'm very, very excited about.
Oh yeah, next week is the Big Lebowski. Next week they're re-releasing Big Lebowski, and I'm really excited for the week after that, Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh yeah.
'Cause I haven't seen Beverly Hills Cop in the theater.
Yep. So we got 2 good ones coming up, and then there's the re-release of Ghostbusters. Don't know if that'll make it here. It's the 29th of August. They re-release it for its 30th anniversary across the country.
It's limited, which means it's a crapshoot if it comes here. It could come here. Because, I mean, the things like tonight with Monty Python and the Holy Grail and the whole AMC Classic series, even that in and of itself is limited. Not every... I think this theater is one of only, like, a few in Illinois. That
does the classic
Yeah,
release.
that does the class. So, yeah, I mean... It's possible, yeah, Ghostbusters could come here. I hope it fucking does.
Oh my God! Yeah, I would. It's pretty cool that they get as many that they do here. I'd be surprised if Ghostbusters didn't. Make.
I would and I wouldn't because like I said, like it just some movies you won't get. Like we haven't gotten Boyhood yet, but at the same time we got Snowpiercer, so. You can never predict what in the hell is going to come here. That's not like a national everywhere release. But hell, tomorrow I got 2 movies tomorrow. I'm going to be at Guardians of the Galaxy and Get On Up.
Yeah, I'd like Get On Up. Get On Up's going to be good. But Lebowski will be especially fun because I just went to, a couple of months ago, I went to Lebowski Fest in Los Angeles, which was so much fun. I'd never been to that kind of thing, but I guess we can talk more about that next week. But
yeah, totally. Yeah, we'll be here next Wednesday. I don't know when I'll post that video, so it's Wednesday now.
Yeah.
You'll probably be watching this Thursday. All right. See ya.
Bye.